Hi guys, back again. So it's been very interesting actually trying to navigate this new LMS system and learn how to video record. We were converting some of our smaller videos and attaching them directly to LMS, and then for our longer videos we're publishing them to YouTube. So I never imagined that I would be on YouTube, but it happened. So you never know what ever will happen. So we are up to lesson 4 today, and we're going to be talking about congruent triangles. The lesson's attached. Open it up, follow along. I will be available for any questions or any help. Skype, email, chat. If you chat me and I feel that I need to work with you or show you specific examples, then we can do a Skype, and that way I can walk you through it if you have questions. So, all right, here we go. All right, so we're talking today about ways that geometry and algebra get together. Okay, so we're still working with story problems, and we're going today specifically to look at congruent triangles. And when two triangles or their lines or angles are the same size and shape, they are congruent. Okay, so if we're looking at this triangle below, here's the way that I would show congruencies. I would show them with lines. And I would say that this line is the same or congruent to that line. This line is the same or congruent to this line. And that leaves us with this one like that. So that would be how I would show that those lines are congruent, or that they would be in the same order. If I'm going to do the angles, I would say that those two angles are congruent. These two angles are congruent. And this is a right triangle, so those two angles are congruent. Okay? So when we're looking at these pictures and we're determining congruencies, we want to make sure that our lines and angles match. Because if they're labeled, then we would say angle A corresponds or is congruent to angle B in the other triangle. It just depends on how it's labeled. Okay? These are still congruent even though they flip this picture. It's the same two triangles. They've done a transformation, right? If I turn them, if I flip them, no matter how I move them around, these two triangles are still congruent because we proved their congruency in these two triangles here, and they are the same. Okay? So no matter how I position them, they're still congruent. Top of page 33. And now what they've done is they've given us labels. Okay? And specifically, and this is important when we're talking about congruent, this is the symbol to show congruent. It's not just an equal sign. Okay? So the symbol is super important, because if a triangles are congruent, then you would say that triangle ABC is congruent to DEF. And you have to keep whatever order you put these in the first triangle, the order has to stay the same in the second triangle. Because this is in essence saying this line, these lines, and these lines are congruent. I know I did it a little bit different in the other one, but we didn't have any labels on it. Okay? And now we could say that side A is congruent to side D, and side B is congruent to side E, and side C is congruent to side F. Okay? So that's pretty easy. But these two triangles that they've given us here are not congruent, right? So the way to show the not congruent is simply to put that line across which says, no, these triangles are not the same. The sides don't match, the angles don't match, because this triangle is smaller than that triangle. Okay? And we're going to go to the next page, which is page 34. So I have these two congruent triangles, right? So it's saying that these sides are congruent and these sides are congruent, but I have a missing side. But if I know that these triangles are congruent, then that x is going to equal 8. So that was really simple to solve for x. So let's look at this one. If I have two congruent triangles, and I'm going to draw the symbol congruent, then I would line up the sides, and I could say that A equals 6, and B equals 6, and C equals 4, because these two triangles are congruent. Okay? And I got a little ahead of myself. 35. This is just giving you examples of what we've already done. This is saying that these sides are congruent. And this is in the same triangle, so this side and this side is the same, and this side and, I'm sorry, this angle and this angle is also the same. Okay? As always, you can pause the video if you need a little more clarification, rewind, playback. Alright, so this is saying that I have two congruent triangles. I'm going to use our symbol so we know that these are congruent. But we have two very different equations to represent this side. So we need to solve that equation. So we put the 3x plus 2 on one side, and we put the 2x plus 12 on the other side. And then we do the subtraction. We know that we're going to subtract 2 from here. So this gives us 3x equals 2x plus 10. But now I need to isolate and move the x's. So I'm going to subtract this one, and I know that I get 10 on this side, and 3 minus 2 is 1, or simply just x. So now we can say that x equals 10. And 3 times 10 is 30 plus 2 is 32, and 2 times 10 is 20, plus 12 is 32. So both of these sides are equal to 32. Sorry. When we substitute our number back in here, and that's how we know that we have a balanced both sides of the equation to solve for x. Alright, so we have two sides of this triangle which are congruent, right? But this means that all of these sides are congruent, so we need to figure out what the sides equal. So we have 3x plus 8 equals 4x minus 2 squared. And we're going to, order of operations tells us we need to do our exponent first. So this becomes 4x minus 4. And we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. I'm going to the next side. Oh, and they've already gone ahead and moved that 4x over here. So we have 3x minus 4x equals negative 8 minus 4. And I'm going to the top of page 37. So negative x equals negative 12, because negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12. So x equals, because they're both negative, you divide them both by negatives and it becomes a positive number. Okay? So number 1, we have two congruent triangles. We're going to draw the lines to show which sides are congruent. Okay? So I'm going to draw which ones are congruent. So this side is congruent to this side. This shorter side is there. And then this side is congruent to that side. So side 1 is 1/2 m minus 2 equals 28, right? Because those two sides are congruent. Side 2 is 5x plus 5, and that's going to equal or be congruent to 35. And my side 3, 4y, minus 11, it's not equal, that's minus 11, equals 21. Alright guys, your job now is to do the rest of the worksheet for classwork. And then your homework for tonight is attached right in LMFs in the classroom. So that's due for homework, and that's due tomorrow. If you have any questions, or if you just want to let me know how you're doing, that'd be great too. Let me know, and I'll see you tomorrow, guys.